It's April 2020, and we are reading Chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita, Knowledge of the Absolute. Sri Bhagavan Maya Sakta Manaparta Yogam Yunjan Madashraya Asamshayam Samagramam Yata Gyasyasi Tachtrinu. So this verse, if you do a little, doesn't take long to research, but the lectures given by Srila Prabhupada on the Bhagavad Gita, this is his verse to speak from. He's given more lectures on this verse than any other verse from Bhagavad Gita. So remember how we said back in chapter 4, this is his favorite verse. Well, it was at one occasion. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvata. So he really seemed to like this one. I'll read the translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." So what do you think Prabhupada sees in this verse that he would be interested in speaking about? I see Eric nodding his head. Go ahead.
It seems like it's like it gives like almost a very like nutshell like summary of the means and the results of applying the means of Krishna consciousness, because it says by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, referring to Krishna, with mind attached to Krishna, then you can know Krishna in full, free from doubt.
Okay, so the means and the goal are established there. So what is the goal?
Oh, do you want me to continue?
Yeah. What are you? Because you're the one that said that.
Oh yeah. Well, to know Krishna in full, I guess, would be the preliminary basis to eventually, going back to Godhead and to, basically becoming free from samsara and attaining Krishna prema. So.
Okay. And it also ties into that verse in chapter 4 where he says, "One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not take birth again in this material world." Okay, so that's the goal. And the means is the last two words of the Sanskrit.
To hear.
Yeah, to hear. Touch Shenu. Just listen to me. Another important word in here, well, two words in the third line, asamshayam, so free from all doubt. And then samagram, completely. So in this chapter, if we pay attention, if we touch Trinu, if we hear from Krishna, we can know him in full, free from all doubt. I've read this chapter several times, and I still don't feel like I know Krishna in full. But he makes this promise. So if we really, really hear it, and every time I read it, we pick out a little bit more from this. So here we go. And last time we read this, we were trying to compare what's the difference between chapter 7 and chapter 10, because in both of those, Krishna gives a long list of things comparing himself to. Chapter 10, to use the words that Eric said, he establishes that he is the superlative of multiple categories of things. Krishna is the superlative of everything. In this one, what we found was he is essential to everything. He is the essence of everything. He's going to describe the elements. He's going to describe all kinds of situations, properties, and then he's going to say, I am the essence behind those properties. And so seeing him as the underlying cause behind everything, as he promises in the beginning, allow us to know him in full and free from all doubt. So text number 2, Elijah, are you ready to read?
Yes. I shall now declare unto you in this full knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous, this being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know.
Okay. Everything we need to know is in this chapter. And every time I read it, it's like, okay, here we go. I'm going to try to hold on to it all. But because Krishna is unlimited and he speaks in an unlimited way, our capacity is at present limited to catch all of it. So let's just grab as much as we can. And every time you grab it, you grab a little bit. And one day my wife said, I don't know how you remember so much stuff. My mind is like a sieve. You know what a sieve is? A strainer? People still use that word, sieve? Or only
Yes.
hard people?
Yep.
Do you know what a sieve is? You know what a sieve is?
Could be?
Yeah.
A sieve?
Yeah.
Sieve?
Yeah.
A strainer?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, yeah, what is that? It's a French word. They spell it really weird too. But anyway, I said, well, you just keep hearing stuff, and every once in a while, a little twig or a stick or a little bit of mud is going to stick in there. And then as more and more stuff gets stuck in there, you just keep passing it through there. And eventually it gets plastered in really good, and you'll be able to hold a lot of Krishna talk. So now she's doing even better than me. She's reading more than me. And just keep passing it through that sieve-like brain. Little bits and pieces are going to stick. So text number 3, go ahead, Eric.
Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth.
Go ahead, Heather.
Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 construct my separated material energies.
Besides these, my Arjuna, there's another superior energy of mine, which comprises of living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature.
All created beings have their source in these 2 natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution.
O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread.
Okay, before we go on, now we're breaking into this whole section where he's going to start. So he's the string, the thread that holds all the pearls together. So just like I've got these Tulsi beads, and I see Heather's got her beads. You don't see the string. All you see are the beads. Everybody's got neck beads on. So Krishna is the string. You don't see it, but it's all holding together. So he's holding the whole creation together. He's the string, the structure behind it all. Now he's going to open it up, showing. So I'll read the next verse. So there'll be 4 of us reading. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man.
I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat and fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics.
O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men.
I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of Bhartas.
This verse, I was thinking about it this morning. You really have to look at the Sanskrit to appreciate the poetry in it. Balam balavatam chaham. And if you look at the word for word translation, balam, strength, balavatam, of the strong, cha aham, I am. Kama raga vivarjitam. So the strength in strong people, it is devoid of kama and raga, passion and attachment. Balam balavatam chaham kama raga vivarjitam. So where do we see stuff like this? It's like, so like when we see strength, great power, and it's being used for kama or raga, it's not so attractive. But when it's free from that, when someone's using their power for a good purpose, then that's beautiful. That's Krishna. And then kama comes up again in the second half. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshada. Prabhupada's translation is, I'm sex, which is not contrary to religious principles. The word isn't directly sex, it's kama, which some other people translate this verse differently. We have desires. And then there are legitimate times when those desires can be acted upon and engaged. And so Krishna says, yeah, dharma aviruddho, when it's not against the principles of dharma, and you're able to engage your passions, your desires. And he says, that's me. That's a nice thing to think of when you're engaging in your passion, and it's at a legitimate time. And you can just think, there's Krishna there. That's really nice. Balam balavatam chaham. The purport. Let's read the purport. Go ahead, Elijah.
The strong man's strength should be applied to protect the weak, not for personal aggression. Similarly, sex life, according to religious principles, dharma, should be for the propagation of children, not otherwise.
The responsibility of parents is then to make their offspring Krishna conscious. All right, text 12.
Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me.
Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexaltable.
Divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it.
Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake in the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me.
O best among the Bhartas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute.
And these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him, and he is very dear to me.
All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal.
After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare.
Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto the demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures.
I am I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity.
Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone.
Men of all intelligence worship the demigods. Their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet.
Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme.
I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible.
O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows.
A sign of Bharta, a conqueror of a foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate.
Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion. They engage themselves in my service with determination.
Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They're actually Brahmin because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities.
Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation, of the demigods, and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. And that concludes chapter 7. There's nothing further to be known. But Krishna still speaks 9 more chapters. Because Arjuna asks a question in chapter 8. And he asks about this last verse. All of these things. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me to be the governing principle of the material manifestation, of the demigods, and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. So Arjuna asks, what is all that? So that's how chapter 8 begins. But this one here, there's so much in there. It's only 30 verses. It went by pretty quick. So we could go back and open up a few purports. Anyone have any favorites?
I put my finger in like 4 different sections. But I had something that jumped out at me at the 721. Because this one, we read this verse, I thought into my head, like, tricky, tricky, tricky. I always think Krishna is very tricky. And it's really like this verse particularly jumped out at me as far as desires, because I feel like, well, it's what we desire. Krishna kind of gives us automatically what we want, so we have to be careful what we desire for, because even if we desire to worship a demigod, or in other words, like materialism or material things, Krishna will let us do it.
We'll read the verse again. Text 21.
I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity.
Yeah, what I see in there is Krishna wants us to have faith in something, because without faith, we're stuck. We can't move anywhere. So if we believe in something, and believing in a demigod, that's good. To follow some kind of course. Otherwise, if we don't follow anything, we're just kind of not going anywhere.
Well, to also counteract that is that he gives us whatever we want. So if we choose to like just hang out on the Xbox, then he'll also give us the ability to just hang out on the Xbox, because he wants us to be happy. So my point was, like, it's kind of coming down to desires. That's what jumped out at me, is that, like, be careful what you desire, because if we desire to have Krishna, he'll help us have that. But if we desire to have other things, he'll also, or really, I'm not thinking so much on a devotee platform, but for other people that have like atheistic platforms, if they want to believe there is no God, Krishna gives them the ability to believe there is no God.
Yeah, in any direction you go, you're going to find clues that will reward you and say, yep, you're on track. Eric.
I have a question. Actually, I've been thinking about this verse for the past couple days. Because
the same one?
Yeah. It will be this one and then the next one, because they kind of are talking about more or less similar topic about like Krishna will, as soon as someone desires to worship a demigod or something, then he makes their faith steady in that. But I guess I'm just wondering, like, why Krishna basically facilitates that can happen, when I guess why he doesn't just direct them towards the ultimate goal of life rather than letting them fumble about in the material world. Though I did read an article from, I think it was Srila Sridhar Maharaj yesterday that kind of addressed this, that said that the reason why this is the case is because if he did that, that would be interfering with our free will, and then therefore you can't really attain the ultimate goal of life, i.e. love. To love somebody kind of requires that you make the free choice to do that. So I guess that's one thing I've thought about in regards to why Krishna allows us to make, in some cases, very irrational decisions about our choices in this and multiple lifetimes. I guess because before I was thinking of the nature of, like, if a parent sees that their child is consistently putting their hand in a fire or running out into busy traffic, why they don't restrict their free will and say don't do that. But I guess the point about, like, you can't attain prema and without free will. So I guess, I don't know, is that kind of how you see the resolution to this? Because this is like kind of related to that, ongoing topic of like the problem of evil and like how different theologies address that.
Yeah, you've nailed it. You brought up the causes for doubt. Why would God allow people to do dumb things if he cares about us? We don't allow our children to go and play out in the busy streets. Why is he going to do something so reckless to allow us to go down some long diversion when, yeah, it is kind of puzzling. And you stated the reason, well, without choices, how can it be love? How can we really be loving him? But giving so many choices and like children choosing to love their parents, well, parents also have to lay down the law. And you see the parents, you're right there. And later on in life, you realize, man, they really did a lot for me. But with Krishna, he's like the thread that's holding the pearls together. You don't even see him. You don't even know he's there. And he's just the essence behind everything. He's the strength and the strong. Well, okay, but all we see are the strong people. What else do we read in here? He's the taste of water. Well, I'm just drinking water, and all I got is his word saying, I am the taste. Where is he? I want to see him. Come on. If he wants me to love him, come on, show up. But it's like, what's going on? I don't get it. We got to work so hard to find him. So yeah, you've opened up the box of.
From my understanding,
But Heather's she's gonna put it all back together again. She always does this.
I don't know about that, but from my understanding is that it's like, it's kind of simple in a way. Krishna is just this young boy, and he wants to be loved, and he wants us to love him. And, this world to us is everything, but it's actually just a tiny little speck the size of a mustard seed in a bucket on top of somebody's head, which is weird, right? So like, basically to us, we can't fathom all of this, but really it's just about love and it is, even though we think that there are problems and, there's suffering and all of these things, but we're going through all of this so that we have an opportunity to finally get to Krishna. I guess I'm kind of losing my train of thought of where I was going, but my point is that it's like almost kind of like a video game. We're in this reality and these bodies going through these motions to get back to Godhead. And when we finally do get back there, it's like we've only been gone for a second. So even though it feels like so long in these lifetimes, like we'll bunch back and we'll be there, and it'll just be like, oh, where was I? I was just stunned for a second. So that's kind of my understanding of how the suffering works is that, we have to go through a lot of pinpricks, and every day is a long day, especially in these pandemic times. But in the grand scheme of it, it's just a bunch of lessons in kind of a virtual reality, because this is not reality. This is where we're stuck.
Yeah.
Okay. But
that
okay, go ahead, Eric.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say that's definitely because I've been reading articles from different Vaishnavas about this topic recently, and yeah, that analogy of like the material world's like a bad dream. It's kind of like being in a messed up video game that you keep trying to enjoy, and obviously it bites you in the end. But then it reminds me of a lyric from this one song that is like Krishna. Speaking about Krishna gives us pain in this world to help us see the reality of material misery. That there's I guess from the standpoint of the absolute, that the material, the pains and pleasures that arise in material nature are more or less just two sides of that same coin of and that what is it that they're lessons to be learned and such. I guess like I was listening to Raghunath talk about that. He did like 4 episodes of his podcast talking about this. I guess that the proper understanding is that a Vaishnava should see, whether the most painful or pleasurable thing happens, that it's, you know, the result of their karma and think not so much why is this happening to me, but what can I learn from this? How can it bring me closer to loving God and things like that?
Can I say
Yeah,
something?
yeah, please.
I think that what the text is saying is, and I've never understood this in the Krishna consciousness movement, that worshiping demigods, you know, why is it such a bad thing? Krishna is saying that that emanates from him also, and that he is the source of that. So if you worship Shiva, or if you worship Shakti, you are going to go to those planets, but ultimately that, you know, when one worships Krishna, I mean, I have a hard time with this saying demigods as bad. So we're veering off the topic a little bit from the text, but basically I see what he's saying is that, you know, I mean, I guess he's making a judgment. Also, unintelligent people worship demigods, but I mean, Shiva is supposed to be a great Vaishnavite, you know, and in India there are all these different paths. So you go to different planets for some lifetimes, then you come back down, and ultimately you will realize, you know, the supreme consciousness, the supreme person. That's how I see it. I don't see it as a judgment.
Yeah, thank you. Um, what he's saying, and it actually is there in the Sanskrit, um, where it says less intelligent people. What he's getting at is that the motivation for worshiping demigods is impure.
Right.
They're worshiping to get material things. And earlier on in the Gita, he's asking Arjuna to neglect certain parts of the Vedas, which promise one heavenly delights in their next life. The Vedas are used to perform ceremonies to kill your enemies and to get things, material things. That's what the earlier parts of the Vedas are about. And then later on, the Upanishads come out and they kind of make sense out of all of that and present, well, here is transcendence, here's what you are. So it kind of takes it a step higher. So Krishna is telling Arjuna to look beyond the flowery words of the Vedas, which promise you all kinds of heavenly things. That's not really what you want to go to. That's a lower desire. So here again, he's revisiting that theme. Because
Thank you. That clears it up for me because, you know, like I said, I mean, this is news to me that people worship demigods and goddesses for heavenly planetary pleasures. Some people worship, like say Shiva, for a state of exalted consciousness, you know.
Yeah.
Not everybody does this, but I guess some people do.
Yeah.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah. And I was pretty young and naive once, and I met someone who was a worshiper of Shiva, and I said, you know, let's see, oh boy, I'm embarrassed to even say this in public.
Go ahead.
But I quoted Prabhupada. Yeah, everybody's moving in to listen. I quoted what Prabhupada said. People worship Lord Shiva to get material things. And the worshippers of Shiva, they have all kinds of wealth and benefits. But the worshippers of Vishnu live simply and in poverty. And this guy said, you know what? We say the same thing about you guys.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I felt really dumb, and I thought, oh yeah, who am I to like step in between this? If someone's worshiping Shiva for good purposes, then great. That's great.
Yeah, and you know, ultimately, it's just a thing of language, you know, because I come from a Shaivite tradition, and would talk about the self, you know. So the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about the self, and it's all about meditation. So, you know, it was news to me when one of my friends said to me, you better not tell them that you're a Shaivite because they'll say you're worshiping a demigod.
Yeah.
But I'm open to all paths, so I don't think everybody. And like I said, Krishna says that he's behind the worship of demigods. And again, not everybody. I wish every Shaivite was wealthy. It's not true.
Yeah. Well, and Shiva is different from other demigods. Someone who is totally focused on, say, worshiping Lakshmi for the purpose of getting wealth.
Right.
They don't really care, is my worship making Lakshmi happy? They only care if, well, I mean, I'm not speaking for everyone, but I'm
Right.
saying the general tendency is the worshiping Lakshmi or Durga for the purpose of, I hope I'm doing this and she's going to give me something.
Right. No, I get.
Yeah, that's their main intention. And so it is very possible for someone to be very renounced in worshiping Lord Shiva and achieve really high consciousness. And Shiva and Krishna are practically the same.
A book that is only about chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita. I haven't been able to read it. It's so intense, but by somebody from another path. I think a Shaivite path.
I didn't quite follow what you just said there.
I said I have a book, a whole volume that discusses just chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita.
Mm-hmm.
It's not written by a Vaishnavite. It's written by a Shaivite, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, I don't see I just see unity in all types of worship. I do.
Good. We need more people like you. And we have people here too. And Gabrielle raised her hand. She wants
Yes.
to speak.
Quick question regarding the Vaishnava view of Shiva. And he is not considered to be like other demigods. Like I cannot become Shiva ever. Well, I can become Lakshmi if I do all the things that you have to do to become a demigod. Correct?
Lakshmi is a different category as well.
Exactly. That's and I don't quite understand. I mean, he's not like the typical demigods, but he's also not Krishna. So I'm trying to grasp the Vaishnava understanding of that. I never quite have.
Yeah. He almost is Krishna. They're practically the same person, but there is a slight difference. I would recommend, if you want to get our view on Shiva, to look up Radhika Raman on YouTube, and there's a lecture on Shiva Tattva.
Radhika
Raman.
Raman. Yeah, he gives a really good high level and understandable presentation on this, and he's really good on any topic.
Okay,
Eric,
great.
yeah.
I'll do that. Thanks.
Eric, yes.
Oh, yeah, I had something to add to that Tripurari Maharaj has an hour-long video on Shiva Tattva on YouTube that I think explains it really well. And or I think you might be able to find this on Vedabase too, but the Brahma Samhita, as commented on by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, talks a bit about Shiva Tattva in the beginning as well, and kind of like how the difference, and such.
You said the lecture was on YouTube or Vedabase?
There's a lecture by Tripurari Maharaj on YouTube on Shiva Tattva, and then there's if you look up the Brahma Samhita as commented on by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, so Srila Prabhupada's guru, he in some of his purports he talks about Shiva Tattva in that particular text.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank
Most
you.
likely, if you search in the Brahma Samhita, it will be the verse that starts with Kshiram Yatha. So Kshiram, Ksira, Kshiram Yatha. I don't know the rest of the verse, but it's a verse that says Krishna is like milk, And then when the milk has been transformed into yogurt, then that's what Shiva is like.
Okay.
Um,
So the verse starts Kshiram,
Shiram,
Shiram.
yeah, Yatha.
I love Brahma Samhita.
Oh yeah. We were just reading on our daily Chaitanya Charitamrita readings on Facebook, the section where Lord Chaitanya travels in South India, and he visits the temple and he finds that 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita, and he gets it copied and carries it with him. And then he goes up into Maharashtra and he finds a group of Brahmins studying a book written by Bilvamangal Thakur, Krishna Karnamrita. So he gets that one copied too. So he's walking all the way from Jagannath Puri to South India, up into Maharashtra, Mumbai almost, then cutting across back to Vidyanagar and then up into Puri. So he's carrying those 2 manuscripts with him. He considered them to be so valuable. So we haven't read any purports yet to this chapter. We read the whole chapter already.
Okay. 7,
No.
right?
And Heather picked out this verse, and then that got the whole demigod kata thing happening. Shall we read the purport to this? Heather, you're in charge. This was your verse. You started it.
Okay, so I'll read the purport or start the purport. God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord, as Supersoul in everyone's heart, understands and gives facilities to such persons.
Poor Gabrielle.
Where are you guys? I know it's chapter 7, but which text?
21.
Thank you.
All right, you're going to have to start over again. Read the verse again so Gabrielle can get up to speed.
The verse?
Yep.
I am in everyone's heart as a supersoul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity.
Okay, now having heard from Sharita, this verse has different meaning to me. Now it's like she's saying, yeah, go worship and learn good things from that demigod. They're called suras. They're godly people, and you can learn good things from them.
What Krishna is saying, that he's the source of that faith in the demigod. That's what I read into this.
Yeah.
That you know, that sorry, that's what I see.
Well, from my understanding, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but it's kind of like when I was a kid, they'd take us to a seafood place, and on the top of the seafood menu, you would have like lobster or crab or whatever if you ate those things. But then you would get everything underneath of the menu if you got that particular thing. So if you just got crabs and you got everything underneath the crabs, and you couldn't have lobster or whatever. But if you got the lobster, then you could have everything underneath of that. And I know this is a really mundane way of kind of explaining that, but I feel like that's like when you get Krishna, you get Shiva and all of the other things that all the demigods underneath have to offer as well.
That was totally mundane, but appropriate. That was wild. So what do they call that? You can get the entree or you can get the complete meal.
Well, they have like on a seafood board, they have like clams and shrimp and like, you know, like this and fish and da 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 da. And there's like 20 different things. But, you know, if you get the 5th thing on the menu, you can have 5 and under. But if you get the 20 thing from the top, the most expensive, you can have everything that's underneath of it.
Okay. I get it. We could say the all-you-can-eat vegan cafe, or you can just buy a couple of pakoras or, all right. Okay, but still, if someone just wants to get the entree and Krishna says, go, eat, do something, worship somebody, go somewhere. That's and grow from it and learn from it. All right. So with all of this kind of seafood menu and controversy in mind, now we're going to read this purport, and I think we're going to get a lot more from it. So you read the verse. Gabrielle, start the purport, and I'll follow you.
Okay. God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord, a supersoul in everyone's heart, understands and gives facilities to such a person. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, he does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires.
Some may ask why the all-powerful Lord gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying this material world, and so lets them fall into the trap of the illusory energy. Yeah, some people do ask that. Weren't we just asking that? Let's see where this goes. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord as Supersoul does not give facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Go ahead, Elijah.
Therefore, he gives everyone full independence, whatever one likes. But his ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad Gita: one should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto him. That will make man happy.
Both the living entity and the demigods are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the supreme will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Is that me?
Yeah.
Generally, persons who are distressed in the material world go on to the demigod, as they are advised in the Vedic literature. A person wanting some particular thing may worship such and such a demigod.
For example, a deceased person is recommended to worship the sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess to learning, Saraswati. And a person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastras, Vedic scriptures, for different modes of worship of different demigods.
And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod, and so he successfully receives the benediction. A particular mode of the devotional attitude of the living entity toward a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord.
The demigods cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity because he is the Supreme Lord. Wait, let me start that over. The demigods cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity, but because he is the Supreme Lord, or the Super Soul who is present in the hearts of all living entities, Krishna gives impetus to man to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of the universal bodies of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence.
In the Vedic literature, it is said the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the Supersoul is also present within the heart of the demigod. Therefore, he arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of the living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are dependent on the supreme will.
They are not independent.
Okay, hey, that was interesting, and that was sort of like a rehash of everything we just talked about, but then much more eloquent and concise. But I don't think we would have gotten the same unless we had discussed it first.
Yes. Sorry, I just have to interrupt because I've got to run. But
Okay.
wonderful being with all of you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharita.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
I was going to say that it's interesting that we have people on here from different cultures because coming from an American type background and not being around a lot of demi worship or demigod worship or knowing what that is, when I see that, I translate it as like Kardashian worship or like like just this ridiculousness of like I need these new shoes or Prada or Louis Vuitton. Like who spends $3,000 on a bag? That's ridiculous. Like what? So that's the kind of things I translate as demigod worship, at least in America and Western countries.
But actually, it is a very deep-rooted, cultural, sophisticated, and civilized thing, and there is a lot to it. And I've talked to a lot of Indian people who have come into ISKCON, and they meet devotees like us, Americans, who tell them worshiping demigods is bad, and they're freaked out by it. Like they say, everything good that's happened in my family has happened because we've worshipped this particular demigod for not hundreds of years, but who knows, maybe even thousands of years. It's been a family tradition. Our family always worships this God, and we've done well. And I'm going to break that. You've got family tradition behind all of that. Something that Americans, we don't know anything about. We don't have family traditions. We're all independent. We do whatever we want, which there are good things about that. It's nice to have some independence, but we may not always use it in the right way. It's good to have family traditions that we stick to. It gives us some direction. And so here's a whole group of people, a whole culture that Krishna says, I make their faith steady so they can devote themselves to some particular deity. That gives structure. That kind of ties the whole society together. Let's read the next verse because it looks like it's connected. Who left off?
I just read the last sentence.
Oh yeah, that's right. Go ahead. So you read 22.
Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone.
Purport. Go ahead, Gabrielle.
Demigods cannot award benediction to their devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget.
Okay, in the previous purport, he said Krishna is in the hearts of the worshiper, and he's kind of like, what did he say? It was that sentence that Elijah read twice, because it was kind of a challenging one. Where is it? The demigods cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity, but because he is the Supreme Lord, or the Super Soul, who is present in the hearts of all living entities, Krishna gives impetus to a man to worship certain demigods. So he's giving the worshiper impetus, and then he also says, the demigods have no independence. Says that is the super soul present in the heart of the demigod also. Therefore, he arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of the living entity. So he's kind of the, what would you call, like our internet connection here. We're all connected. We're looking at each other's face. And so the super soul is kind of like that, connecting the worshiper to the deity and sending that information back and forth. Isn't that kind of cool? Never noticed that before. Demigods cannot award benedictions to their devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. Is that what we're reading? Yeah. The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget. Is that what you just read, Gabrielle?
Yep.
Man, it just slipped right through. I didn't get it the first time through. So the worship of the demigods and achievement of desired results are due not to the demigods, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. The less intelligent living entity does not know this, and therefore he foolishly goes to the demigods for some benefit.
But the pure devotee, when in need of something, prays only to the Supreme Lord. Asking for material benefit, however, is not a sign of a pure devotee.
Oh,
Eric,
sorry, I totally lost my spot at the last. Wait.
asking for material benefit, however, is not a sign of a pure devotee.
Oh, okay. A living entity goes on. A living entity goes to the demigods usually because he is mad to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity and the Lord himself does not fulfill the desire.
In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment and is contradictory in his desires. Devotional service to the Supreme Lord and the worship of the demigod cannot be on the same platform because worship of a demigod is material and devotional service to the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual.
For the living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefits desired by less intelligent living entities, who therefore prefer to worship demigods of the material world rather than engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord.
Well, that opens up a bunch of stuff that we just zipped right through earlier on in this chapter. Let's go back to the 4 kinds of people, text 16. Let's see, going back even further, text 14, there's a long purport in between. But text 14, Krishna says, these 3 modes of material nature are under my control. But if people surrender to me, they can easily cross beyond them. Yeah, it's really hard to overcome the illusion, but if you surrender to me, you can easily conquer over it. Then in 15, he talks about 4 kinds of people who don't surrender. That's where the really long purport is. Prabhupada loves talking about those Buddhas, Duskritinos, Naradamas, Maya Parita Jnana. He gives a really long purport here, and he loves throwing those words around when in his lectures and in other purports. But we're going to go to the 4 kinds of people who do surrender. Since we're talking about desires, desiring material things. So text 16, O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. The distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. So there it is, those who are in distress. And a lot of these, well, the first 2 are definitely like, that's demigod area. We just read in that last purport. If you're wanting material things, and you worship Krishna, then that's a contradiction. Because worshiping Krishna is only supposed to be for spiritual things. But in the Bhagavatam, there's a verse that says, no matter what you want, if you are full of all desires, you have no desires, you desire yoga perfection, then worship Krishna. Tivrena. Tivra means very forcefully put everything into it. If you've got a lot of desires, then just worship Krishna like crazy. He'll take care of everything. He'll take care of it in a way that will actually help you progress. You may get what you asked for, but he'll give it to you in a way So he referred to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it's a series of verses where he says, someone is worshiping me, and they're asking for Vishaya, which means material sense enjoyment. And Vishaya also has the word Visha in it, which means poison. He said, such a person is a fool, because that's like going to someone who has nectar, which will give you immortality, but you're asking him for poison, Visha. Then Krishna says, I forget who's speaking here, but someone is just saying, this is the way Krishna speaks. Krishna says, he may be a fool, but I'm not a fool. I'm not going to give him poison. If someone's worshiping me, I'm going to take everything away from that person and make them, and I will give him only my access to my lotus feet. Then when that person comes in touch with me, they will give up all of their desires. So that's kind of what goes about. So if you're full of all desires, then worship Krishna. You will be completely and entirely fulfilled. But if you worship demigods, then you get temporary material things. If you pursue temporary material things, then that's all you get. You may get what you wanted, but then you find out it's not really what you want. As one devotee would say, who's passed away, said, you've climbed the ladder of success only to find that it's leaning against the wrong wall. So you've gotten all of the stuff that you've prayed to the demigods for, but you're still unsatisfied. So you worship Krishna, and Krishna's taken all of your material assets away, but you've gotten Krishna. So you're satisfied. You didn't get your desires fulfilled, the ones that you thought you wanted. And the example given in the Bhagavatam is of Dhruva, who wanted material things. And he worshiped Krishna. And as predicted, when he saw Krishna, he said, whoa, I don't want anything. All I want is you. I'm completely satisfied. But Krishna said, yeah, I'm going to give you all this other stuff too. You're not going away empty-handed. So shall we look at these 4 kinds of people who worship Krishna, who surrender to Krishna? People who want things, people who are in distress, they're inquisitive, and then they're searching for knowledge of the Absolute. So these are materialistic things, but still they're approaching Krishna. Then he says in 18, he likes the Jnani, the one who comes to him in knowledge. And then the next verse is 19. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So just by acquiring more and more knowledge, many lifetimes. But our process is not just to accumulate knowledge about Krishna, it's to accumulate bhakti. That's the direct and easy method. Oh, there's that verse. And that takes us up to 20 again. Kama sarva kamova. And then there's that verse from the Bhagavatam I was talking about in the purport to text 20. As stated in Bhagavatam 2.3.10, akama sarva kamova moksha kama udharadi tivrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham param. And he doesn't give the translation right there. He just throws that out there as if that's a verse you should know. So whether you are, there's that kama word, which means desires. So whether you are akama, you have no no desires, or you are sarva kama. Sarva means all. You desire everything. I heard a song once. I went in some building somewhere, and there was some heavy rock and roll music, and this must have been, I don't know, in the 80s, maybe the 90s. But the words of the song were, I want everything. I want everything. Nothing less will do. I want everything. Anyone ever hear that song?
No, but there's that song from the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory where the girl's like, I want the whole world. Give it to me now. You know, where she's singing everything.
Oh, that's a good song. So that would be a good song to sing for Sarva Kama Va. So Akama, Sarva Kama Va. I don't want anything. I'm self-satisfied. Or Sarva Kama, I want the whole world. I want it now. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Or Moksha Kama, you want liberation. Udharadi, so that means if you have good intelligence, then Tivrena Bhakti Yogina. So Tivra means with power, with great force. Bhakti Yogina, engage in Bhakti Yoga.
So that's where you take everything and use it for Krishna.
Yeah, or you just take all of your desires and say, Krishna, I'm full of all desires. I want the whole world and I want it right now. And I want you to give it to me. And you just keep begging Krishna. But because your focus is on Krishna, eventually you're going to lose interest in the world. That's the lesson from the Dhruva story. Because Dhruva wanted the whole world. And he got it. He got it in pretty quick time, 6 months or so. It was very extreme. Okay, anything else? We're going over desires and worshiping demigods and building faith, and Krishna building faith, and Krishna being the super soul that infuses us with enthusiasm. So we could pray to Krishna, give me enthusiasm to worship you in bhakti. And we don't have to have some via medium of another Paramatma, because then Krishna will directly hear our prayers. That was something cool that I got from this today, was that super soul transmission between giving enthusiasm to the demigod worshiper and then nudging the demigod, give this guy a benediction, give this guy what he needs. Okay. Anything else for chapter 7? Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thanks for joining again. And tomorrow is chapter 8.